Hello and welcome to our candidates interview, in which we bring candidates for town offices directly to your home. This interview is brought to you by LakeCAM, Lakeville's public education and government access television stations. My name is Katie Goodfellow, and I currently serve as town moderator. And with me is Joanne Upham, who will interview our candidate today. Our guest is Ms. Rita Garbitt, who is running for the one-year seat on the Board of Selectmen. Both Ms. Garbitt and Mr. Day desired this interview format rather than a debate. However, Mr. Richard LaCamera and Mr. Joe Fleming, who are vying for the three-year seat, will be featured in a debate-style interview separate from this program. For the edification of our viewers, we sent out a request to town voters for questions for the candidates forum originally planned for March 18th. Joanne and I organized these questions, as well as considered ones that were submitted last fall for the candidates forum held in October. It was our feeling that some of the issues that mattered 6 months ago matter today. No candidate has seen these questions in advance, and all interviews and debates will not be broadcast until everyone has the opportunity to participate. To align this interview with that of the debate, Ms. Garbitt will have 3 minutes to introduce herself and 3 minutes to answer each question. Personal attacks are not permitted. After Ms. Upham has asked all 9 questions, Ms. Garbitt will be given 1 minute to make a closing statement. So, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Rita Garbitt. I was born and raised in Lakeville, and I raised my 4 children. All of us went to our Lakeville school system, and my 4 children have gone on to have successful careers. I'm very proud of my family history here in Lakeville. On my mother's side, she was a Sampson, so looking back at all of my relatives that have served in different capacities in the town since 1853, I take great pride in that. And I did retire from the town administrative position here in Lakeville last August. And I'd like to continue to serve my community. I have the availability now. I just love my town. I want to preserve our quality of life here, our rural character. I feel that my knowledge and experience will be very beneficial to the town.
Okay. All right, we will move on to the questions then.
Okay.
Your first question is, the position of selectman involves working collaboratively with other members of the board and with other boards and groups in town. Please describe for us how you work with others in times of agreement and how you do so in times of disagreement.
Well, as town administrator, I did work with all the different boards and committees, usually always in agreement. That's not always the case, but I found that working with the different boards and committees, we usually came to a consensus, whether it was they needed funding for one of their projects or endeavors to follow through with what their requirements are in their position. I would have to say that I feel I'm very proud of all the relationships I had with all the different boards and committees.
No disagreement issues, really, that you can remember?
No.
Oh, okay, good. Wow.
No. I tried to accommodate their requests, whether or not they needed, town council's help for hearings, for changes in our bylaws. I would go to the selectmen to get approval for their use of town council. I can't really remember any real disagreements.
Well, good for you. That's a good thing. The next question is, selectmen must make difficult decisions that promote the general welfare and not their own special interests. So please explain how you would approach making decisions in the interests of the Lakeville citizens and the town of Lakeville, and not for yourself.
Well, that would be easy for me because I look to make decisions for the residents of the town of Lakeville. There's nothing that I would look to benefit myself. I've worked under 11 different selectmen over the 20 years that I was town administrator, and sometimes there was a special interest. I feel that I have no special interests. I feel I'm fair in making my decisions, and I take everyone's opinion into consideration, because I've always carried out the policy that is set by the Board of Selectmen. I've made recommendations, but I haven't been part of the decision making or the policy decisions, and I would like to be part of that now.
Okay. All right. The next question is, what do you see as the biggest challenges to the town's budget over the next 3 to 5 years? And how does that fit in with the master plan that's being worked on now?
Well, I think our educational budget is always the top priority in the next 3 to 5 years for sure. Can you just repeat?
Sure.
The master plan.
That we're just figuring
okay.
how the master plan fits in with the 3 to 5 year, what you think is the biggest issue in the next 3 to 5 years for the budget.
Well, 2 of the funding requests that are in our master plan is for a full-time planner and a full-time conservation agent. And I think that those 2, I'm not sure that those could be funded in the next 3 years. Looking at where our budget is now, I've been trying to stay, I've attended the last 3 budget meetings. There is other things such as the design review procedures that is part of our master plan. There are certain elements that just take time of different boards and committees. No funding mechanisms, will maybe town council on some of the zoning bylaws, but those are the 2 funding issues that I see that might not get funded in the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay. Have you read the master plan? Do you agree with it?
I've been on the master plan committee
Well, there
for
you go.
20 years.
There you go. And
Fortunately, we just finished it up.
Yeah.
And before this outbreak, it was good to have all of our public workshops. We had a lot of public participations this time around. Our 2005 master plan, the participation wasn't as good, and I was very excited that we had so much input from everyone.
Good. Good. Okay.
Other funding, well, who knows how this whole crisis is going to affect budgets,
Budgeting,
statewide,
correct.
federal, or everything else. But
Right.
I know education, for me, is very important for the town. Public safety, also our fire and police departments, our highway department. We do have a lot of roads that, apart from Route 79, under our pavement management plan, I see that funding for that, we may not be able to fund everything in the next 3 to 5 years. Hopefully the Chapter 90 that we receive from the state will be increased and get more done, but Franklin's done a very good job spending the funds that we do receive and planning out the maintenance of the roads. I think people will probably have seen a big difference since Franklin took over that position. But roads are a big
concern.
yes.
Yeah.
And maintaining what we have already as far as our town buildings.
That's a lot of work too, and a lot of money.
You know, I think pretty much as our buildings, we still need to consider better accommodations at the fire station and a highway office space for the highway department. I think those are the next 2.
Big ticket items.
Well, not so much that big ticket, but trying to do them within the town operating budget, not an override.
Right, right.
There are some things we can do now without an override.
Okay. Our 4th question. It kind of hits into what we just did.
Okay.
In your opinion, what big budget items should the town start planning for now that will be necessary to address long-term? Kind of what we just touched on.
Roads, again, with the pavement management plan, we have a very good idea of the roads coming up that not all of them need to be reconstructed, but you also have to maintain the roads that are just completed. big ticket, I don't know that we need to build a brand new fire station. We definitely need to make some changes to the accommodations that we have there. And our highway department office space. Most of that has already been included in capital items over 2 years. So I think the board is looking now at whether they've looked at a modular. I don't know if the direction they're going in right now, but the office space for our highway department is very important. And some improvements to the highway barn itself. We've been, over the last few years, trying to make some improvements to that, using the current highway barn that we use for sand and salt, using that to cover our vehicles with all the new stormwater requirements, and having the trucks undercover is very important, and keeping our salt in different buildings.
That's dry.
That's
Dry?
dry.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Big ticket. I think that those
That's
are.
quite a bit for the
And even
future.
just maintaining, I know Nate Darling, our building commissioner, is taking a look at all town facilities. For instance, the library may need somewhere down the road replacing roofs on the new buildings. I think the senior center's 14 years old, and the library, I think, is around 10.
Yep, a little after 10. Yeah.
It's almost 50.
So it's,
Is it?
My son was born.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I'm only saying around 10 because
So it's-
I know recently
well, no,
we
wait,
just.
the senior center debt will be paid off. That was 20 years. So
Yeah.
where that's paid off in 2 years, and the library
library's hitting 14.
is a year or two after the senior center.
Right.
Exactly.
So, wow, we're closer than I thought.
Yes.
Time's just flying.
That's right, 20, yeah.
Time's just flying. Okay. Now we're moving on to conservation and responsible environmental stewardship are important to many Lakeville voters. What steps will Lakeville need to take to ensure the town preserves its resources, including open spaces, for the next generation?
Well, I'm all about open space. I'm not quite sure how many acres are left. I meant to look at the open space plan before I came, but, we have protected Betty's Neck, and we purchased the Ted Williams Camp for recreation. Some of it is for open space. We do have the Great Cedar Swamp that is protected. And we do have to look, we have, I think, 4 golf courses here in town. And I don't know how long they'll stay as golf courses, but it's a pretty significant amount of acreage that if that did get developed,
Wow.
to consider that, and that's the Open Space Committee, brought that to our attention, that there is, fortunately, we have the agricultural restrictions, the APRs on the Wilkie Farm, if anyone's familiar with the farm on Route 18 and 105,
Yep.
and the Roach Farm on
Highland.
Highland Road.
Yep.
The Wilkie Farm was actually the first APR done in the state. Wallace Wilkie.
Oh, didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, he sold his development rights. So we were very fortunate for that.
Yeah.
But as far as being able to purchase properties when they come up, right now the town doesn't have funds to do that. But if certain properties come up, it's really up to the townspeople to decide, do they want their taxes to go up on a debt exclusion to purchase a particular property. And that's really up to the Open Space Committee. As a Board of Selectmen, I would look to their recommendation because they're updating their plan.
Yeah.
They're in the process of doing that now. And it would be important to see, and hopefully they send out a survey to the residents to see what properties are important to be preserved as open space. And I know in all of the master plan survey that went out, the workshops that we've done, the residents want to keep the rural character of Lakeville. And it's hard to do when private homeowners decide to sell their land. We really don't, for a new subdivision.
Not a whole lot we can do about it.
No, and on the agricultural land with what they call the 61A
Yes.
program, the selectmen do have the right of first refusal, which means if they have a bona fide purchase and sales agreement, we could purchase it for that. But it's really, I feel, up to the townspeople if they want their taxes to go up. Cut.
Okay. And in your opinion, Ms. Garbitt, what are the most important issues facing our school system today?
Well, it's funding, and I know that the state has looked at funding the schools, I think over a 7-year period with this, increasing the funding. The first year it's not going to be, I think, funded by the governor in his budget as much as we'd all like to see. But funding is very important.
What would the funding necessarily be for?
For our Chapter 70 is...
Yeah, no, but I mean, what would the money go towards? What is it that the schools need that we would need the money for?
Well, special education costs keep rising. Transportation costs for the special education students keep increasing. And then the circuit breaker funding, which is funds the school district some of the special education costs.
I was just, no, because the question is basically just trying to figure out if there's something that's really facing the school system that today that we need to think about to make sure that they have what they need, the school system, so the kids have all the tools that they need.
Well, now with this current crisis that we're in, teaching them from home. I know they're not doing anything this week, that perhaps next week they're going to start. My two granddaughters go to the schools.
That's what I understand too. Next week they're doing that, start doing virtual, some type of.
Yes. And
remote virtual.
My daughter Rachel's a professor at Stonehill, and they've started that, but it's much more difficult, I think, than to have the one-on-one with the students. It's taking her twice as long. It's very involved. But out of the technology, maybe some good will come out of being able to assist the students and the teachers.
Yeah, there won't be any more snowmaking snowmen in the future when we have a snowstorm. They'll be doing schoolwork.
And there's always different mandates coming out from the state, for the school department, certain things that they will have to start doing, and usually they're unfunded mandates.
Yeah.
They don't receive the money to do it, so.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go on to question number 7. The issue of the construction of apartment complexes or popular dense housing in Lakeville has been a hot button topic for over 2 years. What is your opinion of these projects, and what benefits and challenges do these housing projects bring?
I think, there's 2 projects that I can think of that people consider the hot button. One is the apartments, townhouses, duplexes in the train station area, which is called a 40R. It's a district that to promote denser dwelling near public transportation. It could there's different criteria, but ours fell under the 40R. Because it was near the train station. I think the LeBaron project is the other contentious development, which is a 40B, which is is different than the 40R as far as the funding to the town.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people think that it's the Board of Selectmen. I know when I've talked to people, they want the selectmen to stop the 40B developments. And it's not the selectmen that approve the 40Bs, it's actually our zoning board of appeals. And by state law, if the state approves a project, a 40B project, doesn't matter if it's in an industrial zone or a residential zone or a business zone, the state, the local municipality cannot stop it unless there are really conservation, impacts on wetlands. But they have to go through a whole process at the state level first. And if we're not at a community, if they're at their 10%
Right.
of our housing stock, a community can say no. We were at, I think, 7.01%, trying to reach our 10%, but the 2010 census is being done now, so our housing stock numbers are going to increase, so we're not going to be at 7% anymore. Not many communities are ever able to reach the 10%, but it's a process that they have to get approved by the state first, and then they go before the zoning board of appeals with input from the police, fire, board of selectmen. You can't just say no.
Right.
You
It's
know,
a little more complicated than
It
people
is.
think.
It's very contentious, not just in Lakeville, in a lot of communities. And I think the difference, too, is a lot of people feel it's low-income housing. It's affordable housing, which in Lakeville, the housing, the cost of housing in Lakeville is very high. Mm-hmm. You know, our seniors, I think it's very important to consider housing for our seniors and for our young people, because a lot of our children can't stay in Lakeville that want to.
Right.
The cost of living, but it's and the people that are cut.
Okay. Next question. Another topic of much debate in town is the Route 79 project. Mm-hmm. What are your opinions about the project, and what action, if any, should Lakeville voters take on April 6th?
Well, I know I am going to vote yes.
Okay.
I watched the presentation the other night that the Board of Selectmen held at the high school. I'd ask people to please watch that. It is a $10 million grant that the cost of the roadway is being paid between state and federal funding. Lakeville does have to come up with an estimate of $2.3 million. We're responsible for the design of it. There are some permanent takings, not many, some temporary easements for telephone lines, and, small bits of frontages for some of the people that live on 79. And it gave the example of what it would cost, $100,000 home. I think it was 200, and on average, say a $400,000 home, I think is $44 a year. Mm-hmm. And it's a debt exclusion. It's not a permanent override. After the 15 years, and as you pay down the equal debt payments over the 15 years, I'm hoping that the townspeople will vote for it, because other communities are waiting for that $10 million. It'll go to other projects, and it took several years. We're in a community with 27 other, in a SERPED, which is our regional planning agency. There's 27 other communities. But I know even people that live in other towns that drive through 79 to get to the train station. I've been to meetings where even other communities feel that the Route 79 project in Lakeville is worth it, and they're in support of it. So,
okay.
Hopefully that passes.
Hopefully it does. We'll see. Time will tell. Last question for you. What is your opinion of the Freetown Lakeville Lake District proposal?
I know Freetown held a special town meeting a couple of months ago, and it was not voted on. I don't know that much about it, even though I was working for the town when the presentation came forward. It's very complicated when you have a district like that, who collects the funds, how they are spent. I think to come up with a final opinion, I would have to know a lot more about it. I know Selectman Powderly had asked the group that wanted to do this district to send letters out to everyone on the pond that would be affected by it. I would say it's too early. I'm inclined
To make an
not
opinion.
to, without knowing more about it. But I know when we looked into it, it's a complicated procedure.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I know a lot of people in the ponds are worried about the values of their property. So.
Okay.
right
No, that's
now,
good. I mean, I agree with you. There's not a lot out there about it, so it is something you have to know more to have an
Yes.
opinion. Okay. That wraps up our questions for the interview. Would you like to have a brief closing statement to our viewers?
I thought of it earlier when you said I was going to have a chance, but no, I'm really excited for the opportunity if I do win the election. I definitely, now that I'm retired, I have the time. I know it's a lot of time. I'm used to changing priorities on a dime, just like I'm sure this coronavirus, this time, we had the floods in 2010, and it was like everything else was
Put on
put to the
hold.
side. We had to take care of the residents that were flooded out and find housing for them. I take pride, when I was town administrator, that I return all the phone calls. You know, if people have questions that may not be on the same day, that I will be accessible either by email or by phone for any residents. I will give 100%. Like I said, I do love the town. I think my experience and knowledge of the town, where I've only been gone 8 months, you know, there's not much catching up. I've stayed current on everything through the meetings, which again, I'd like to say thanks to LakeCAM and our technology. I'm very, we could never have people get a quorum for town meeting. And now people can, other than town meeting, I want them to go to that, but they can sit at home and watch all the meetings and stay current on all of the issues before them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I would like to thank you ladies and LakeCAM for putting this together for the townspeople.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this interview and the debate between Mr. LaCamera and Mr. Fleming and other town-related material is available on LakeCAM. Please remember to come out and vote in the annual town election slated for Monday, April 6th, presuming that that remains true. There'll also be some other different ways that we're going to be coordinating voting in town. So check the town website for that information. Right now, the April 6th voting day will be from 12 noon to 8 p.m. at the Loon Pond Lodge at Ted Williams. Thank you.